everyone, and welcome to the HBCU Success Show. I am the creator and host of the show, Zachlyn, and I am so excited to bring you this brand new platform. I am using this platform to shine a light on the academic excellence of our HBCUs, and what better way to do so than to engage in conversation with the products of those academic programs. I am interviewing the LeBrons and Beyoncés, the GOATs and stars of our HBCUs, and they are giving us a very transparent view into their college to exceptional career success journey. Things that a picture and a paragraph just cannot accomplish. So here's what I need you to do. Go ahead and like this page. Subscribe to this channel. Hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss a single interview. And make sure you share this page with others. For the high school students, they will gain exposure into various career fields and HBCUs to help guide them in their decision making. For the current college students, they will be encouraged and motivated as they hear the alumni talk about how they persevered through challenging times in college to get to the light at the end of the tunnel, career success. Alumni, you will be so proud to hear of the accomplishments of your fellow alumni. And for stakeholders who were not aware of the academic excellence of our HBCUs, you're going to learn today. All right, now that we've gotten all of that out of the way, I can get into today's interview. I am so excited to bring you today's guest because he embodies everything that I was thinking of when I created this platform. And I am very honored that he dedicated an entire hour out of his very busy and demanding day where he was wearing multiple hats and microphones. For him to dedicate an hour to this brand new platform shows his humility and commitment to HBCUs. He gives us a very transparent view in his journey from zero to millions, from failing the 9th grade to becoming world-renowned in his expertise, so much so that a major television network offered him a television show. And watch out, LeBron and Bronny, his son is coming up in his footsteps. I'm talking about one half of Critter Fixer's country vets, Dr. Vernard Hodges. Now, before I get into the interview, I need to explain a few things to you. I ask all of my guests to dress professionally, but to talk to me like I'm their homegirl and we're just sitting under the shade tree having a conversation. I also ask my guests to not be shy about their accomplishments. And finally, I open the door for them to draw on their faith as they tell their story. Dr. Hodges understood the assignment. So much so that he is spitting some scientific terms and some subjects. So I am giving them subtitles so you know what he's talking about. And as he offers books to help cultivate our skills in leadership, entrepreneurship, and self-development, I am giving them subtitles and they are linked below in the description box. Now, one more thing before I get into the interview. I will always first pay tribute to the HBCU. And in this case, today's esteemed alum hails from 2 HBCUs. And as he talks about his time at those HBCUs, I want you to note how they not only gave him the academics, but the application with real world experience, literally around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the Fort Valley State University and the historic Tuskegee University. Established in 1895, Fort Valley State University empowers students to push the boundaries of what is possible. Fort Valley State is ranked among the top public HBCUs in Georgia and secured the #1 spot in 2019 and 2020. FVSU is currently ranked #1 in STEM Research National Science Foundation funding among public teaching colleges in Georgia. FVSU is home to the Cooperative Developmental Energy Program, which fosters minority and female students into careers in geosciences and engineering. Fort Valley State University is long known for sending more students of African descent to medical school than most or all public universities in Georgia. Historic Tuskegee University was established on July 4, 1881 in Tuskegee, Alabama by Booker T. Washington. Tuskegee University is home to the Tuskegee Airmen in participation with the U.S. Army Air Corps. Home to the first nursing baccalaureate program in Alabama and one of the oldest in the nation, Tuskegee University has increasingly gained respect in STEM as it is one of the nation's leading producers of African American chemical, electrical, and mechanical engineers, and is the largest producer of African Americans with baccalaureate degrees in math, science, and engineering in Alabama. Notably, Tuskegee University is the only HBCU with a fully accredited College of Veterinary Medicine that offers the doctoral degree and produces over 75% of the African American veterinarians in the world. Of those 75% is Fort Valley, Georgia native Dr. Vernard Hodges. Dr. Hodges, a proud alumnus of Fort Valley State University and Tuskegee University, is a world-renowned veterinarian, author, TV star, investor, and philanthropist. Dr. Hodges, in partnership with his longtime friend and fellow Fort Valley and Tuskegee alumnus, Dr. Terrence Ferguson, owns and operates Critter Fixer Veterinary Hospitals. It goes down in the DMs for this doctor as National Geographic slid into his DMs and offered an opportunity that has become the Critics' Choice Award-winning show, Critter Fixers, Country Vets, now in its 6th season. Dr. Hodges is a sought-after speaker and philanthropist, as notable companies and universities are flocking to participate in his Vet for a Day program that gives students exposure to life as a veterinarian. Dr. Hodges enjoys mentoring rising veterinarians and sharing his entrepreneurial and investing strategies to help other African American veterinarians acquire ownership. He is a cheerful giver and fundraiser, giving back to the very communities that raised him. Dr. Vernard Hodges is HBCU Success. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the HBCU Success Show, Dr. Vernard Hodges. Dr. Hodges, thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to spend time with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
As I understand, you are currently filming season 6 of Critter Fixers. How does that feel to be in season 6? You're in 70 countries. Like, do you have to pinch yourself sometimes?
All the time. Probably every morning I wake up. You know, it's definitely a different life than it was 4 or 5 years ago. You know, I mean, I'm blessed enough to be on here with you. I get calls from, Good Morning America, or Tamron calls me from time to time, or, and I'm just as gracious to be on here anytime I get asked. Time is something else, but I still try to talk to people because, I'm a country boy, so, I'm just thankful to be here.
Well, I appreciate the time. Thank you very much. So I like to start every interview by asking the guest what they're grateful for. So if you don't mind sharing with us 2 to 3 things that you're grateful for, I think an attitude of gratitude just sets the best tone for the interview.
Anybody who knows me, I'm definitely grateful for family. I have an amazing family. That's the backbone of who I am and who made me, who stand behind me. Sometimes I hear people like, man, my family, honestly, even with all this, they just treat me like Bernard. And, it's so blessed to have my mother, who, she's somewhat a diva, she thinks she's on TV as well. And then my son, it's, he's following the lineage of HBCUs. He's going to be a veterinarian. He's currently enrolled as a second-year student at Morehouse. I hopefully will steer him to Tuskegee Veterinary School. Hopefully he'll follow that second. I couldn't quite get him over to the Valley, but I'm just super happy that he's enjoying the college experience. He is making his own way. So I would say family. I mean, that's I talked to my son maybe an hour ago. He calls me all the time, and I'm still gracious because he still want to hang out with his old man. So it's really cool.
That's beautiful. That's awesome. How does it feel? I mean, you've mentored a lot of veterinarians in your career, but to have your son coming up under you and following your footsteps, I mean, that just has to take it to another level. How does that feel?
It does. We often refer to the Critter Fixer family tree, and that's typically Black veterinarians who come through Critter Fixers and gone on. We have some from California and Vegas and North Carolina, New York. But to have my son who, at an early age at 5, I guess I kind of figured out he wanted to follow in my footsteps when he had to do a class project. And it's like a show and tell, what do you want to be? And so he made his little veterinary smock and made a sign. And, he hadn't changed or wavered since then. So, it's an amazing feeling as a dad to have your kid want to be just like you.
Well, and to know your story, Dr. Hodges, that you looked at the veterinarian that was local in Fort Valley, and now your son is looking at you, that's got to touch you a little different, man. That's special.
That's really special. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's get started on your academic journey here. And with most people, I start off in college, but I want to back up just a little bit and go to high school with you, Dr. Hodges. You've publicly shared that you failed the 9th grade.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, it wasn't because you weren't smart. So can you help us understand what was going on with young Vernard that he didn't do well the first time in the 9th grade?
So I didn't know I was smart. One thing I try to, and that's why, like you say, publicly, I want the kid, especially a lot of Black male kids, to understand that, sometimes we all start out as a piece of coal before we make it to that diamond stage. We all go through different things. We all have these pressure situations, and we all have failures. But it's how you respond. I didn't know. I didn't do what I was supposed to do, and I paid the consequence of that. But I had people around me who mentor family, and people say, "Look, man, you can't be a knucklehead. You can't. You got to go in there and do schoolwork and all the things you want to have in life. Academics is going to be the way that you get there." So fortunately, I was able to turn it around. Through the help of so many people who believed in me. But the main reason I tell that story publicly, because I want kids to not see me as Dr. Hodges, the guy who people see on TV across the world. I want people to see me as Vernard, the kid from Fort Valley, Georgia, who was just trying to find his way. And it took me a few stumbles to get there.
Yes. I understand that. And I appreciate that humility and that honesty because it is very important. So that summer, though, you were given the opportunity to make up some classes and catch up with your class and proceed. I love what you told your mother you were doing. Please tell the audience what you told your mom you were doing instead of going to summer school.
So, I'm from Peach County, Georgia, and it's Fort Valley. So, I was like, "Look, Mom, I got to go work in the peach field. I'm going to make some money." I ride my bike and leave home. And she was like, "Okay." And then finally she was like, "Well, you ain't really making no money. Where your money at? What's the deal?" And finally I had to come clean. And told her, "Look, Mom," and she, it ended up working out. It taught me a lesson. It really, because my mom was disappointed, but it just showed her that her baby has the perseverance to kind of find a way out of nowhere and figure it out. And I think that really helped me on my lifelong journey.
That's awesome. So by this time, while you're in high school, you have grown a fondness for animals, particularly those around the water. And you've been spending time at ponds and lakes in Fort Valley. And I'm going to have to be honest with you, you have to take me on a field trip and show me these ponds and lakes in Fort Valley because I've never seen them. But you had a dream of being the Black Jacques Cousteau. And fast forward now, I think you did it. He was, for those who don't understand, a naval officer, an oceanographer, a filmmaker, and an author. You could definitely say that you have accomplished that. Was that something that you spoke out loud, or was it just something that you felt in your heart, said, okay, this is what I'm going to do?
A lot of people that see me now, and they joke and they see me joking and laughing and doing everything. But to be honest, I'm really a quiet person. If most people see me, in a family setting or see me in most setting, I'm usually the quietest person in the room. But my mind is always going. It's just always going. So I would always think these things to myself. I didn't really, only child, I didn't really tell anyone. I just was like, man, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this for fish, and I would go down. I was like, man, I'm gonna be this guy who's gonna be do all these amazing things with aquatics. And after enrolling Fort Valley, I was able to go over to Nepal and do a fish project with the Agency for International Development. Here I am, this country kid, never been on a plane. I am flying 24 hours across the world. I'm going, and I end up in Pokhara, Nepal. and I helped set up a research project that we were able to feed this fish a protein, the people a source for protein. In those areas they study, they're Hindu, so they typically don't eat beef or pork or those kind of things. So they have rice, they have those things, but they need a cheaper source of protein. So we came up with a project that is still going today that help a village by growing carp. So I'm super proud of that.
That's awesome. And it shows that even early on in your collegiate career, you were having international impact as you continue to have now. So that is amazing. So let's talk about that transition from high school to college during a summer, because originally you said you were going into the Army. Is that correct?
I had signed to go into the Army. I was headed to Fort Jackson in South Carolina. I had my paperwork. Yep. I was headed to the Army.
Yeah, but there was a program that recruited you to come into Fort Valley State for a summer, and that changed the course of your trajectory. Can you help us understand what happened during that summer that made you change your mind and say, you know what, I'm going to college. And not only am I going to college, I'm going to major in a hard science.
Right. So it was the Middle Georgia Consortium. So they were like, look, if we'll pay for you to take a SAT, you do pretty well on your SAT, we'll pay for you to go to college. And I was like, well, I'm a child in the military. They said, well, you aren't leaving, go to college and let's see. So I signed up for summer school, went to Fort Valley, and I like to say the rest is history, but I absolutely loved college. I mean, it was a lot of fun, friends. It was really a great experience. So I had to call Uncle Sam and say, look, I really would like to get out of my commitment. And, actually I was a little AWOL because I didn't show up. And they were okay. Yeah. Thank goodness they let me out. They didn't hold me to those commitments. And, I decided to be a biology major at Fort Valley.
Awesome. So you mentioned that college was fun. So let's have a fun question here.
Yes.
Take me back. What's a song that when you hear it today, it just takes you back to undergrad and you can't say Atomic Dog?
That's on the list for sure. What's the song with Chubb Rock? I can remember it. 1990, Chubb Rock, Blocked on the Scene. What's that? Go. I'm trying to think. Okay. I know it's probably that dates you. That dates me. I'm sure you that would be one song, Chubb Rock.
Okay. Okay.
Hammer was during my time.
Oh, I loved Hammer. Yeah.
That definitely was some stuff that definitely takes me back. I can remember being in the student center trying to do the little crab dance where you're trying to go around like Hammer. So that dates me, but that definitely was a song that reminds me of college.
Yeah, no, I loved Hammer. Yes. Too legit to quit. Yes. All right. So let's get back into the college part of things now. So you started off as a biology major and ended up transferring into fisheries science. Can you explain to us what fisheries science is?
So fisheries biology is the study of ichthyology or aquatics. I didn't want to just go to biology, right? I wanted to be in fisheries. I wanted to do anything that deal with ichthyology or the study of fish or aquatics. Dr. Melinda Davis, who is she may be the most important person other than family in my life. I'm fortunate that now, she's a veterinarian client, and of course she never had to pay for her veterinary services as long as she lives. But she took me around the world. She's the one who helped me get the internship at Missouri and at Virginia Tech, and she taught me so many things. She taught me about fish. She taught me about sharks. I mean, we went up to Nova Scotia and Canada to the Bay of Fundy and did things with lobsters. It was just an amazing experience.
That's one of the beautiful things I think about HBCUs is that we have something that we can call family, right? And as you just talked about Dr. Davis being very influential next to family in your life, we look back on those moments and we're just so just beaming with this appreciation for what she did. And that certainly is a beautiful thing. So thank you to Dr. Davis, Dr. Melinda Davis, Fort Valley State. So you also talk about, sitting next to the smart kid in class. And this is how you met your business partner, your brother, your friend, Dr. Terrence Ferguson. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the transition, not only from high school to college, but as you have openly stated as well, too, young Vernard was not necessarily hanging around the best crowds when he was growing up. Can you talk about that transition for you mentally from the trap mentality to the collegiate mentality? And do you think that sitting next to that smart kid, Dr. Terrence Ferguson, also helped with that as well, too?
Like I say, as a Black man in America, you typically aren't immune from a lot of things. You get exposed to different things, some good, some that aren't. It just kind of depends where you gravitate. Oftentimes, you gravitate toward the cool stuff, and a lot of times the cool stuff in the trap or in those places are not the place you should be. But you want to be cool, so here it is. You have the peer pressure, you have the different things. So, I had that failure. And maybe, I look back and maybe the good Lord was saying, look, man, you got to figure it out because, you've already shown that here you are, you failed, at this point, statistically, you're in bad shape. Mm-hmm. I was able to kind of overcome that and make it over through the grace of God with the consortium getting me into college. So now I'm in college. I'm in my hometown. I have these options to go in places or do things I don't have the option to do. But I also noticed in college that, the smart kids were cool too, and matriculating. And people tend to gravitate to the people who were doing well because you obviously want to do well. And Dr. Ferguson, or as I affectionately call him, T, we met, he was a veterinary technician major. And so we would take some of the biology classes together, and we became good friends. I mean, he was a smart guy. I always did his work. So I was like, okay, well, let me kind of hang out with this guy. Mm-hmm. We became good friends, not knowing that one day we would be lifelong business partners. One thing I do when I go talk to kids or talk to people, I always say it's very important who you hook your wagon up to. When I talk to him, you got to hook your wagon up to the right person. And fortunately, he and I were able to hook our wagons up in class, and it's been a life-changing thing for both of us.
Certainly, and we all get the privilege of watching it play out on television. So I just think that is just so beautiful how you all were able to come together so early in life and keep that friendship and partnership going. Let's talk a bit more about undergrad and what is it like majoring in fisheries biology? What was that course load like, and what was the day in the life like as a student?
Day in life like a student, you study things. Well, some of the classes that jump out was limnology. Limnology is actually the study of water. And what we do is we go down and we take water samples. I can remember going, Terrence was actually in that class. We went down to Montezuma to the Flint River. We took water samples there. We took vertebrate, invertebrate. That's when you studied like mollusks. We think about, the oysters and mollusks or clams. You have to know that as well. And then as well as vertebrate animals, things like sharks. I have worked with sharks. I have worked with whales. I have worked at SeaWorld. I have worked at, and those kind of things. So the day in life would typically being with Dr. Davis teaching me these things and, making this and just trying to, improve the craft, which was, fisheries. I thought I was going to be the Black Jacques Cousteau.
Yeah. So what was one class in undergrad that was like, oh my God, get me out of here?
Oh, that's easy. Physics.
All right.
Physics. I'm Dr. Steele. I still ask him why he torments me to this day. I was like, I'll never forget. I remember Dr. Steele. I remember this question. It was a girl on a merry-go-round. She was going around at this at a certain speed. She put her arm out at a 90-degree angle, and she dropped a yo-yo, and everything falls, if I remember correctly. Gravity is 32 feet per second square, 9.8 meters per second square. How fast did this yo-yo come back up? And I never forget, like, thinking, I just might as well walk out this door. I can remember that test question from Dr. Steele, yes. But physics definitely was challenging. Organic challenging, but it was, at least I kind of knew a little bit, but physics was even more than vet school. Physics was the most challenging course I've ever.
Wow. Well, how did you get through it?
I just studied and prayed, and fortunately, the good Lord found a way for me to get a C out of that class. And
yes. Listen, I say that, I think we really learn how to pray when it comes to those hard classes.
Sure.
Yes. So you were able to go on and finish Fort Valley State and get your Bachelor of Science in Fisheries Biology. And then you decided that you want to go to veterinary school. Now, let me set the stage here for the audience to understand. There are 155 accredited medical schools in the United States and only 32 accredited veterinary schools in the United States. And of those accredited schools, Tuskegee University is the only HBCU that is an accredited veterinary school. Why did you choose Tuskegee?
Thank the Lord for Tuskegee, Mother Tuskegee. There was a time, and I'll come back to it. There was a time when if you met a Black veterinarian, there is an 8-9% chance, 80 or 90% chance that they went to Tuskegee. I mean, it was a sorority fraternity of us. I mean, if they Black, more than probably they were Tuskegee. Now times have changed a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit.
Okay.
But so I have this fisheries degree. I'm thinking, okay, I still want to work with fish, but the more I'm kind of doing, going to the world, I'm thinking I want to work with all of them. Now, if you can imagine, you spoke. I mean, there are only 60 slots to get in veterinary school, so it's very competitive. I mean, you were talking about a class of 60, maybe 2,000-3,000 people have applied. And people think just because it's ski that it's all Black. No. Our class was probably, we maybe had 27, 28 Black people, maybe 4 or 5 Hispanics, and the rest were Caucasian. So it wasn't a lot of slots. So even getting in was a tough thing. So I'll never forget when I got my interview. So I go in there and I didn't have a 3.7, which is the average GPA. And I was getting an interview, and the guy was really nice. Dr. Tippett, he was ended up being one of my teachers. I was talking to him, and he was like, "Well, Hodges, what about the grade? What about this?" I said, "Well, Dr. Tippett, I don't have a 3.7. I don't have probably a lot of the academic success that a lot of people in that stack of yeses you have." I said, "But I can pretty much assure you that there's nobody in that stack that has gone around the world and fed a village." And I got in.
So what it says to the audience and says to me is that it's not just about grades. It's about being a great, well-rounded student as well, too.
Exactly. That's, you got to find a way. I tell kids all the time, again, the last thing I want people to see me is, Hodges, man, you're great, Hodges. I want people to see what it took me to get to this point and how they can get there. Because, it takes hard work. It takes a village to get you there. You're going to fall down, you're going to fall down, but hopefully you get up. You got to find a way to get what you want. If you want to be something, or if you want something in life, maybe your path is a little bit different. My path to being a veterinarian was quite different. Oftentimes when I speak, some people like my son wanted to be a veterinarian since they were 5. I kind of made this at the tail end of my veterinary career that of my undergrad career, that I think I want to be a veterinarian. Because now I work with everything. I make fish. I work with fish. I do surgery on moray eels. I do surgery on, any kind of aquatics it is. So, I make those decisions now, and it's a super exciting thing.
Well, to that point, in my research, I saw several reports that say veterinary school is harder than medical school. And I read because in medical school, or at least with doctors for humans, you get to specialize in certain things, versus with a veterinarian, you have to know everything. Is that correct?
That is very correct. It is very challenging. Today, we're talking today, maybe I've seen 5 species. I had a squirrel that came in. It was a baby squirrel that fell out of the tree, broken leg. I've seen dogs, cats, of course, horse. I think I got a camel on schedule this afternoon.
Oh, wow.
You know, groundhog, capybara. I mean, we see it all. I mean,
Right,
you have to
right.
know all those different systems.
So with veterinary school being so competitive and with it being so hard because you have to specialize and really know about so many animals, all the animals, can you talk about what it takes to get into veterinary school?
Sure. I mean, veterinary school, like I say, that it's still. I think now, it's still very competitive to get in. So you got to find those things that'll get you. Obviously, you got to have your biology. You have to have your sciences. You have to have your physics. You have to have the inorganic and organic chemistries. Um, you know, and you, if you're fortunate enough to get in, once you get, it is a full-time job. I mean, it is from there's nobody really works in vet school. You get up and you start about 7 a.m. and you're in class until about 5 every day. I
Wow.
mean, taking histopathology, histology, gross anatomy, which is one of the ones that, we call it the pit at Tuskegee. So at gross anatomy, they give you a dog that your own dog to dissect for a whole year. So this dog has formaldehyde. So you got to take this dog and start cutting it every day a little bit and learn every, what we call protuberance on the bone, every vein, every artery, everything about this animal. I mean, everything. I mean, down to the most minuscule. But looking back, a couple of decades later, I'm in surgery sometimes and I can remember where a certain vein. Now I may not know exactly the name. I might remember the big ones like maybe the cephalic or the saphenous vein, but it may be some. But I know if I hit it, it's something bad there. So,
Right.
so you really, it's very intense those first 2 years, and in the third year you are trying to put it all together. That's when you move over to what we call junior surgery. So you start doing surgery your junior year. It was, if you can imagine, like I say, it was a group of, it was 6 of us, and we got into groups of 3s. And so one person was the anesthesiologist, one person was assistant, and one person was the surgeon. And the first day of junior surgery, at least a dozen people fainted. Yes, they did.
I'm glad you said that because I'm not one to be able to listen to a lot of medical stuff. So it's good to hear that even those who are going into the profession have a hard time as well too. And that brings me to my next question. Was there a class or a time where it was very challenging for you, or an experience or a test or some project that you had to do that really maybe challenged you, maybe mentally or maybe your guts even?
I'll tell you, not to be too graphic, the whole thing was challenging. I mean, professional school is hard. I
Sure.
can't, you got to go in. It's rigorous. It's time. But I'll never forget my senior year, and I still go back to this. It's a guy, Dr. Louder. And so your senior year, you have to go on something called ambulatory. And ambulatory is when you get in the truck and you go out for a week and you go to a farm or you go to different things. So it was in my senior year ambulatory, and I was in the truck with Dr. Lauder. There was maybe 6 of us, and we went up to a farm. And Alabama weather is kind of similar to Georgia, where it's hot. So I pull up to this farm, and my mouth just falls open because it's like 50 dead cows.
Oh,
Bloated, stinky, smelly, bloated cows around this tree.
oh,
Ooh is right. So I look. And Dr. Lauder asked us what was wrong. And, we had taken all these classes. We thinking, okay, it's this, or maybe they ate this, or maybe it's, it has clovers is poison. Maybe they ate clover. So we went out, we did what's called necropsy. Necropsy is the same thing as an autopsy, but since it's not on yourself, it's called necropsy. So we opened up these stinky cows and doing different things. Your facial expression was mine. It was bad.
I'm trying to keep it cute for the camera. Go ahead.
It was bad. So about 45 minutes in this hot sun, smelly, bloated, funky cows, dead. He asked us, why did they die? And again, we had all these answers. All of them wrong. He said, listen, you're about to enter the most amazing profession in the world. He said, you have been taught to look at everything. He said, you should have known what would happen from the time you walked on this farm. You shouldn't have had to do all this necropsy. He said, listen, what's the weather? So, of course, it's hot. And again, in the South, we're used to these storms rolling in. I say it's been storming. He said, look at the top of that tree. And the tree was burnt to a crisp. So what happened was, there was a thunderstorm. The cows went on the tree. Electricity struck the tree. Electrocuted all the cows. We should have saw that plain as day. Because what else is going to kill 40 cows with a burned tree? But that's why I get my philosophy. You always got to, he said, and I learned that lesson. He said, stop, look, and listen. He said, always stop, always look, and always listen, and look at your surroundings. And that's one thing I always take. And even now, sometimes I get the answers to things by just listening to the client, and I can immediately figure out what's going on before I even touch down.
Wow. That's an incredible story, but such a great lesson that you learned as well, too. Wow. I was thinking that you were going to talk about, is it palpating?
Palpate, yes. Cows, yes.
Oh, yes. I saw that picture that you had on your Instagram, and I was like, oh, that would be the part that would just take me out. Okay. But I saw that you had some nerves about that as well, too, but you did very well. So you finished veterinary school. So veterinary school is about 3 years. Is that correct?
4. Actually, 4.
4 years.
4
Wow.
years.
Yes. So you did 4 years undergrad and then 4 years of professional school as well, too. 8 years. I don't know why I was thinking less than that, but okay, that makes sense. So you graduated from Tuskegee University, and you have been in now 2 HBCUs, although Tuskegee's veterinary school was quite diverse. Can you talk about the transition of going from Black spaces to white spaces in an arena where you represent about 2% of the population?
So it's tough, it was a very tough transition, and it still is, unfortunately. And that's one of the things, and we'll talk about that later, I'm sure, but I'm trying to make a difference. But, it was 2% when I went. It's less than 2% now.
Wow.
Going on Tuskegee, you definitely still get that HBCU spirit, just like the Valley. Even though there were some white people there, you still had a yard, so you still can go over there. You still can mingle. You still had the parties. You did, if you could muster that, you still could do that. But, it's different now. But when I got out of school, I had some choices. I could go work in Atlanta, and but coming back to Middle Georgia, at that time, Black veterinarians that's a little tough. But you have to find nuances. You have to find different things. Because obviously I had a service. I was well trained by Ski, but I had to be able to sell it. I had to be able to communicate. I had to be able to talk. And one thing I've learned, as a veterinarian, the biggest thing is I'm usually in a 6x8 room. I mean, me, the client, and the pet. Mm-hmm. I have to find a way to communicate what the problem is. I guess most people call it bedside manner. I have to find that communication. And oftentimes, white ladies give you the benefit of the doubt, at least back then. White guys, not so much. So I found ways to navigate. One thing I noticed, especially back then, was, all these guys would come in and they would either be in camouflage or they would have on a hat with a number on it. And that was racing. Now, I'm not a racing fan. They have the race cars. Race cars, right? They had the 3 or the car 20 or NASCAR is one of the biggest sports here in the South. So I didn't really care anything about it, but I'm smart enough to figure it out. So what I would do is on Sundays, I would read the newspaper and find out who won the race. So that Monday, I was able to talk about races and find that common bond.
Yes.
Or if I saw certain camouflage, I learned the different camouflage. Some was for turkey hunting, some was for deer hunting, certain patterns. I would find things that we could talk about in common and make them feel comfortable. And those are the things you have to do in life. Sometimes, I had a service that I had to sell. I had a service that I had to communicate. No doubt. If given the chance, I could fix their animal, but I just had to get that chance. And once you did that, and once you kind of find those commonalities, it all worked out.
I like that you said that, and getting past those biases, if you will. one question I have is this, and I heard you say this in another interview, that even around your colleagues, when you go to conferences and things, sometimes it felt isolating. And often at times you felt like no one was really addressing the DEI of veterinary sciences. And now with your efforts, you're trying to make that difference. But even now with you just being on television, that says so much and speaks volumes tremendously. How have you continued to navigate that, though, in your profession, not just with your patients and clients, but among your colleagues as well, too?
So, the isolation is real. I mean, if you go to a conference, and there are some conferences that you can go to, and it may be 15,000 veterinarians. A lot, and there may be 50 blacks. I mean, it's improved over time. But I mean, if you can imagine, I tell people, if you can imagine going to a conference that large, you walk into a room and you're the only black person there, you grab your cup of coffee and you sit down and people looking at you like, why are you here? And I've achieved the success at as high as you can probably go, and from ownership to everything with veterinary medicine. At some point, it's kind of like, I guess it kind of hit a tipping point for me where it was kind of like, I've reached this academic success. I've gone to college. Let me tell people my story of failing the ninth grade.
Mm-hmm.
Now I think I've hit the point where I have this platform, because otherwise, when I wrote the book Better on Yourself, I was really writing that to fade the black. I was like Jay-Z. I was like, okay, I've achieved success. I'm fake. That book was published December of 2017.
Okay.
I got a call, or I got an Instagram message March 18, 3 months later, saying, would I be interested in a TV show? So that platform and the platform I have now, I often wonder, like, God, are you playing a trick on me? But I don't think it was for me. I think it was for other people. I really think that. I think, like, because I don't really need anything. It was I think that platform. And so now I use my platform to say, hey, listen, if ain't nobody gonna stand up for these kids, I am. And if you know what I'm saying, if you want to see my face, if you want me to be part of you, then you got to make sure that you take care of things and people that are important to me. And
Yes.
so that's kind of the way I've done it. And I think, with some of the programs that we have going, I feel very comfortable that I'll be able to help make a change.
Absolutely. So with that, let's talk about some of those programs. First, there's Vet for a Day. Can you talk to us about Vet for a Day?
So Vet for a Day. So we have this platform, and if you look on TV, or you look in the magazine, or you look at Sports Center, you see football, baseball, basketball players. You look at the movies, you see Denzel. You look at different actors, you can see different people. You can see Viola Davis. But if you love animals and you look at TV, there ain't but one black person show you can see, and that's mine.
All right.
So that's it. I mean, if you love your baby love animals, your grandma say my baby love animals, my friend, the neighbor, like, look, y'all need to check out them boys from Georgia. And
Valley, Georgia.
Right. So you get all this email, you get all these, I get fan mail now, I get all these things, and people saying, how can my kid or grandkid or friend, how can they be you?
Yeah.
Obviously you try to answer as much as you can, and then you get to the point where you're like, okay, well, let me figure out a way. I was always trying to figure out a way. So I was like, let's do a vet for a day. I'm just going to do a vet for a day, and just invite some kids. So, not too far from my office is a tech school. And I was like, all right, we can go to those tech schools. So Terrence and I said, okay, we're going to just put it out. We got this big response from so many people. Then I said, I need some big guns. So I called Fort Valley. I said, listen, I'm putting on this program. I'm going to do something called Vet for a Day, where I'm going to bring kids into my hospital. I said, but I like for them to learn, the moms who come with them or dads, and learn what the academics about. Can you, provide me that space, as well as maybe some people who can recruit for Fort Valley and tell them how great our vet tech program, and let's tour the vet tech school. Fort Valley was all aboard. And it went very well.
Good.
Very, very, very well. I think we had, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 kids. And so with that, I was thinking, okay, I'll do this once a year. So again, it comes down to platform. So Zoetis, who is one of the largest animal health companies in the world, contacted me and said, Dr. Hodges, man, I heard about your vet for a day. I saw the kids. How can you duplicate this nationwide? And if you could do this nationwide. Now, could I? Of course not. But I wasn't going to back down.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, yes, I can.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, all right, we'll fund it if you can
Right.
do it. I called my boy Blue. Blue, bro, I need your vet clinic on this date. It's in Houston. He said, sure. Then I called one of our Terrence had a mentee in Vegas. Then we called one of our friends in St. Louis. So I had these things set up.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew I could get the kids. Zoetis paid for it. Everything went great. Then Purina came aboard, and they was like, okay, you can come to our Purina facility. Then Miami Zoo came aboard. They're like, why don't you come? Why don't you come down here? And now the biggest thing is, even though I have the kids, I have the passion, I have the platform, I don't have a veterinary school. So I can't make them go to vet. So now, then the vet schools start calling. Texas A&M, we went to Texas A&M Veterinary School. Auburn University, 2 years in a row, Auburn's vet school. Tuskegee, University of Pennsylvania. We're going to Cornell, which is the Ivy League, supposed to be the top of the top.
All
We're going to Cornell to do one in a month. Then I get a call from UC Davis. And if you Google the #1 veterinary school in the world, not in the United States, in the world, is UC Davis. UC Davis called and said, listen, we like your platform. Not only that, we have no diversity. And the reason and they said, we want you to be our commencement speaker.
Mm.
So I'm at a commencement speaker at the #1 veterinary school in the world in California. And I see why, because I was waiting. I did not see one Black person graduate.
Mm-hmm.
But I will change that. Those are, but you have to get in those rooms now. So the big things is getting in those rooms. Using my platforms. So they see this guy that they see on TV who do all these different, in their opinion, amazing things. He's Black. He resonates. He's cool. He's good with the culture.
Mm-hmm.
How can he teach us?
Yeah.
And that is kind of what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing with my Vet for a Day program. I think so far we've touched about 2,000 kids. We have a waiting list. Ohio State University Veterinary School and Louisiana LSU Veterinary School wants to be a part. So we'll do those early 24. And we talk about vet med. The American Veterinary Medical Association, AVMA, which all of us are members, over 100,000 members. They adopted the program. So now we've done it at AVMA in Philly, and we done it went to Denver, and we'll do it again in Austin. But the thing is, I don't understand why but they always say, man, how do you get these kids? They're like, they're there. They want to be there. People that love animals.
Yes.
You got to go to them. You might not got to go find them and show them. You can't go and look. You got to look in the places where they are. They are there. And so that is probably the thing I'm most proud of.
As you shared that, Dr. Hodges, a couple of things came to my mind. So first off is that you're setting an example for the students to say, oh, there's someone who looks like me, who may have had some challenges coming up. And if he can do it, I can too. But on the other side of that, you're speaking to a graduating class that looks nothing like you. And you're letting them know that you have made great strides in your career. And what you're doing is you're setting the DEI yourself.
For sure.
You're making them come in with a mindset that when they see someone like you and Dr. Terrence Ferguson, they think and approach things differently because you set that bar and that example for them. The other thing that comes to mind is the famous quote from Dr. Martin Luther King, where he says, just take the first step. You don't have to see the entire staircase. Sure. And you said yes without knowing how you were going to fund these things. You've said yes to things, and now you've got, you know, these great universities, Ivy League, Purina, all of that coming to you. You're not having to go to them. That's what I love about your story, Dr. Hodges, is that people and opportunities come to you. And with that, let's talk about how Critter Fixers came to you. So they slid in your DM, you ignored them, and then you finally gave them an opportunity to court you, if you will. And then you had a conversation with Dr. Ferguson. What does that feel like when such a reputable network comes to you? How did they even find you? Was it the book?
You know, to this day, they hadn't really said. They just said they were scouring for if you're in the industry, you're called talent. They was trying to find a talented veterinarian because there's no black vet on their network. They was like, look, they didn't want just somebody who was talented and could do every animal. Mm-hmm. So they came, they was like, okay. And I talked to him a little bit, and I was like, T, we might be on TV. And he looked at me, he's like, all right, whatever, fella, you always coming up with stuff. And he's like, but if that's the case, I'm riding with you, brother. And so they came down for a week. They shot something called a sizzle reel. Mm-hmm. They shoot the sizzle reel, and you know, it gets picked up. Nat Geo like, okay, we want them. And so we get a phone call. They say, listen, congratulations, you got a show. There's complete silence because we don't. Their next question was, do you have an agent? And of course, we didn't have an agent.
Right.
So there's so many things that go into to being a television show. You know, I mean, it's you don't really, you know, at least for me, I never really understood. It wasn't a dream of mine. Mm-hmm. But I was like, okay, we're gonna do 6. We're gonna see how it does. And we did 6 and did okay. I mean, our audience is mostly white. Did okay. The next season, it's like, let's do it again, but let's try this. I said, look, let's try some of the black people. I said, because if we can expose ourselves to different audiences, maybe ones that you're not do will do well. And next thing you know, it just took off. You know what I mean? You know, Nat Geo and Disney Plus it's a dream come true. I get, you know, it's just a different feeling to go places and people be like, and you like,
right.
So,
we're talking about Critter Fixers here. You're on season 6 of the show. What was the decision-making process like for you and Dr. Ferguson in deciding to do this? Obviously, it's a great opportunity to show African Americans in veterinary sciences and to put even Middle Georgia on the map. We applaud you for that, right? Byron and Bonaire. But what else were you considering? I mean, I would imagine you have to think of your patients, their owners,
yes,
everyone who works there, your family. So what was that decision-making process like?
It was hard. You know, we are 2 country boys with a Southern drawl. We was like, man, America don't want to get out drawl. You know, we didn't realize, honestly, I can honestly say this. In 30 years, we've never had one single argument, right? So we knew we were buddies, but we didn't realize that was something special. You know what I'm saying? Like, honestly, like our laughter, our banter that we do every morning before we go drive to work, the stuff we talk about, the jokes we crack, the things we do, we didn't realize that was special. You like you say, you have to think about your clients. You have to think about all the things that go in and from your patients to your staff. You know, I mean, as I sit here, and of course, it's off. I mean, I'm literally mic'd. I mean, it's closed, but I mean, literally walking around with a mic
at all times.
And pretty much when I hit the door, I am mic'd, and then I have something in my ear. It's not in there now, but I mean, I'm mic'd, which is
right.
Off. I have something in my ear that I can communicate. You know, people don't think about it, but there literally are. With this show, there are about 20 to 25 people who are constantly working on it. I mean, there's 2 PAs, there's cameramen, they do remote cameras, there's a showrunner, there's an assistant showrunner there. So, here I am, a country guy. I don't know how this TV stuff works. And it's just, it's a whole world. I'll never forget the first time I got mic'd, I was like in the front. And I remember breathing to myself like, Lord, what have I got myself into?
Yeah.
I tell you my best, it's just a surreal feeling. But there was so many things that went on. I can honestly say though, I didn't know how people would respond, but people have responded positively to it. I mean, we won a Critics' Choice Award for being the best nature and TV show, pet show. I don't know. I mean, I'm still overwhelmed sometimes.
Yeah.
But what the thing is, sometimes, and I probably shouldn't say this because I don't want to encourage it, but when these kids who are on their way to Disney World or who are coming, and maybe they're coming from Columbus, Ohio, or maybe they're going somewhere, and they happen to be in this area, and their mom and dad, tell the staff, just tell them we love them. And you go outside, you see this little kid, and they just run to you and hug you and say, I watch you every day. I love you so much. I mean, that's what life's all about.
But you both have a very contagious spirit that shines through the screen, even your social media. I mean, full disclosure, I do research on all my guests, and I thoroughly enjoyed going through your Instagram. I laughed. It was a tearjerker moment here and there. It really comes through. So I can definitely understand how you all are impacting the youth, the elderly, just everyone. It's just feel good television, but educational at the same time. So you talked about being recognized when you go different places. Let's talk about just in Middle Georgia. Can you go to the barbershop and just be Vernard?
No. I cannot. I can, but it's hard. In full disclosure, I actually have it. My barber comes to my house now.
Okay.
So he does. He comes to the house. It literally, again, there are definitely some gifts and some curses. And I was teasing Terrence the other day. So I was we had to fly somewhere. And we were flying somewhere, and we both were kind of late. And this guy sees me and he stops me. And I'm a Southern gentleman. I'm like, yes, sir. How are you? I'm talking to him. Thank you. And, he's like, can you take a picture? I'm like, yes, sir. Sure. And I'm like, hoping they ain't gonna close the gate. So my buddy, and I was teasing him, I see him ease around me and look. And so that the guy doesn't see him. And he goes to catch the airplane. Fortunately, he was able to hold him up, and I got there.
Good. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Almost the flight.
Yes. But it's I can't really go to the grocery store. I can.
Wow.
But I'll be in there for a long time.
Wow. You are a celebrity.
I don't know. I don't know if it's celebrity, but definitely people recognize you. And again, I have no problem with taking pictures. I have no problem with stop. It's just sometimes I really have to get somewhere. And
yes.
Sometimes that can be a little hard. But,
right. Dr. Hodges, Critter Fixer has done very well. You all have the office or the hospital in Bonaire, as well as Byron, Georgia. I want to first ask you, at what point did you realize that you were ready to go off and become this entrepreneur and establish your own veterinary hospital?
I mean, it's it was a different time, when we started 20-some years ago. But, I had cultivated my skill. And I thought, as an entrepreneur, that's the only way you could change socioeconomics. And that's one of the reasons I did my foundation originally, is to change. You got to be able to change the socioeconomics, and that's how people, uplift themselves. That's how you get better. That's how you create generational wealth. That's how hopefully your kids are better than you are, by changing those socioeconomics. And the way we thought was being entrepreneur. So we found a paint store, an 800 square foot paint store. And we begged the guy to rent it to us, because at that time, we didn't have great credit. We didn't even know anything about credit. We had school
Mhm.
loans, but we knew we had hard work. So we went to Lowe's. We built with wood. We built our own stuff. We had a X-ray machine from World War II. It was
Oh, wow.
it was some lean, tough times.
How
But
old were you at this point?
I must have been 25.
25. Okay. Okay.
So, it was some lean, tough times, but I worked hard, and we made
Mhm.
it. We made it happen. Um,
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship, I think is, I try to tell people, I think entrepreneurship, is the way to go. I mean, we talk about less than 2% veterinarians. It's probably less than 0.001% of veterinary owners.
Wow. Yeah. And so now you all have the hospitals in Byron, Bon Air, and you recently opened one in Smyrna, Georgia, which is in the Atlanta area. Please talk about that new establishment and what that means for the overall franchise.
So here's, again, it's all about branding and making people want to be a part of you and using your platform. So PetSmart came to me and they were, they want to talk about some new things they had with their new, because they're just rolling out what they call PetSmart Veterinary Services. And they wanted me to kind of represent them and talk to people about it. And I told them, I'd be glad to do that, but I want my own hospital, but not for me, so that I can give Black ownership. So, with that PetSmart ownership is really cool, because a guy who I went to veterinary school with, Dr. Norwood, who's working as who's been working for someone. I was like, Paul, why don't you come work for me and be with me, and I'll give you a percentage of ownership, not sell you, give you. And now he is a owner. So that PetSmart Smyrna is really cool, because not only does it provide, a veterinary service for the greater Atlanta area, it has provided a person who never would have had ownership. So that's full circle. So now, as I get these kids through Vet for a Day and tell them the different things, now I have a whole opportunity for them to become owners. And it's funny today. We as you speak, there's a young lady, Dr. Clarissa Porter.
Okay.
Dr. Porter came to us at 18 years old. She went to Fort Valley. We helped her. She worked with us. We wrote her letter. She went to Tuskegee. She got out. She was a veterinarian here, and there's another place. I said, Clarissa, I got something for you. Now today, she opened up PetSmart Warner Robins. So she's now an owner. I am going back to Smyrna in a couple months. I'm gonna do the same thing for a young lady, and then in Alpharetta the month after it. And it's amazing how I got one going up with a young lady, Dr. McKeithen, in Detroit, and then we're going to Pennsylvania, and all of these will be Black owned. My goal is to have 25 Black owners in the next 24 months. That's my goal.
25 Black owners in 24 months. I think you are well on your way. I love how you're spreading that generational wealth and that knowledge, Dr. Hodges. And you'll like this, but you can teach a man to fish, or you can just hand him the fish. And I love how you're doing that. You're handing it to him, but you're teaching him at the same time as well, too. And I love how you're just using everything that God has blessed you with, your experiences, your knowledge, the doors that have been opened to you, and you're opening other doors with that. Oh my God, that is wonderful. That is wonderful. I want to ask you this question really quickly, and then we're going to close up, because I know you got to go. You got a turtle that's coming, and you've got critter fixers waiting. So I always like to know what people are reading, and you talked about how your mind is always going. Can you give us some books that really were impactful to you, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship?
So there are so many, and I'm sad that I can't give you some of my best ones. Off the top of my head, but let me tell you why though, because I still have them. It's just now in my mind. I still read a lot, but this will come be a little. But I would think some books, some starter books. Obviously, Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yes.
To start. Who Moved My Cheese would be one that I would think about.
Okay.
Millionaire Next Door is is one that stands in my mind. I can tell you a true story. 2008, 2009. So I was reading all these books and I was learning, and I talk about this in my book, Bet on Yourself, but I was reading and I stood up and I woke up in the middle of a dream. And I said, got it. I said, I get it now. 08, 09, 10 was probably some of the worst financial years, with the stock market. So, people talk about, they say all ships ride with the tide or however they go. So I was making a lot of money in the stock market, but it wasn't because I understood it. It was because everything was going up.
Yeah.
So 08, and I think I talked about, I lost like $1 million, and it was tough. And I couldn't tell anybody because nobody I knew could understand that.
Right.
Nobody, if I lost $1 million, people would be like, I can remember looking at when Bear Stearns went under, I lost $422,000 that day. And it wasn't that I was well. It's just that it's just paper, but it was wealth, and so I never forget waking up. And one thing that, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but the Millionaire Next Door talks about the different habits of millionaires. And one of the things that it said was most millionaires had made it and lost it and got it back. I never forget waking up in a dream. I had lost it. And I was thinking, how am I going to get wealth back? And fortunately, I've done okay. But it's just certain things I can remember. That was just something. But yeah, Millionaire Next Door is one. Who Moved My Cheese would be another. So those are some books, some good books that kind of give you a basis and a baseline of where to start,
And that's exactly why I asked you the question, because that book, you said The Millionaire Next Door,
yes.
It seems like it really cultivated a mindset in you, and that's what books do. And in this conversation, you're doing that as well too. Now, you briefly mentioned your book, Bet on Yourself, which is a page turner. And if you've enjoyed this conversation, you definitely need to get the book, Bet on Yourself by Dr. Vernard Hodges, because it goes even deeper into his life, but also into his investment strategies and different things like that, and just giving us that baseline information to open our minds. It's a rich dad, poor dad for you, if you will. Why did you choose to self-publish? Entrepreneur in you?
As the entrepreneur in me, right? And sometimes you have to weigh the pros and cons of certain things, but at that time, it's funny. Some of the brick and mortar stores, I had to make a decision, self-published or not, and because they would not allow you to come in and do book signings if you were self-published or if you had Amazon.
Oh.
Now, it doesn't matter. I mean, what you do, like I always say, and I'm not just saying this, you be so good at what you do that you make the rules. Ooh. My book was done so well, and it has such a thing. They invited me to come, and I have done book signings, and if I wanted to come do a book signing there tomorrow, they would do it. So you be so good at what you do that you make the rules.
What a perfect way to end this. Be so good that you make the rules. Ladies and gentlemen, the Black Jacques Cousteau, veterinarian, entrepreneur, TV star, self-published author, philanthropist. Thank you, Dr. Hodges, so much for such a robust and honest conversation. It was certainly inspiring and educational and impactful to me. And I know it's going to translate over to the audience. Thank you very much, brother. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All of Dr. Hodges' information will be below in the description box for you to be able to know how to reach out to him, how to purchase the book. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you hit that bell for notifications. Make sure you subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again next time. Make sure your potential energy in motion. See you next time.